Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. Today we are talking about situationships versus relationships. We have Andy and we have John here discussing situationships and relationships. So let's go over to John. I heard you wanted to kick things off because you were eager to get things started today. So you have the floor.
Yes, I was. So I'm here for situationships, and I believe situationships are good is because I have it written down right here. Situationships are good for college students because we're already out on our own and we're experiencing the world for the first time. I know, well, for me at least, and for probably most college students, we're out on our own, we're by ourselves, we're not really around our parents that much, so we're on our own and we're still experiencing the world and testing the waters. So being in a situationship gives us a chance to try and explore different avenues of if we want a relationship or not, or if we just, want to be in a situationship. It gives a true sense of feeling, or sorry, a true sense of freedom. I apologize.
Andy, you are in a relationship. Can you talk about the cons of that, or to rebuttal for him, going forth with that?
I mean, if you're in a relationship, then you are committed to one person, which I am, and I feel like for you to be in a relationship, it's like show genuinely that you are loyal to them, you are there for them, you're there to support them and stuff. And knowing that you got someone to rely on, it's like the best feeling about being in a relationship. And based off that, I just don't see a point in being in a situationship, because like on and off, you don't really know like what's going on and stuff compared to relationships. So
I do have a rebuttal for John here for a second. Do you think it's unhealthy to go from, being in situationships and things like that? Because when you're, choosing and all this fun stuff and that freedom, do you think that it takes a toll mentally, and do you think it's actually really healthy for a college student?
You make a great point. It is healthy in a way for you to get out there and explore and find what you're looking for, but it also can negatively impact your mental health. I can speak from experience on that. So it's a double-edged sword for me.
Do you think that relationships for you, Andy, do you think that it can also kind of be unhealthy, especially when it feels like maybe you're stuck in stuck in that one spot? Maybe I wouldn't say stuck, but just in that one, position with it, and maybe you're starting to deal with family and things like that. Do you think that there's it can be unhealthy at times?
No, because you got with them for a reason. And if you are feeling that way, I don't really think you should be in a relationship with them in the first place, really. So,
well, I appreciate you both joining us. Next, we have the pros and cons for each. Stay with us, man. This is the Lovers Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Lovers Podcast. We are sitting down now with Kyle and Olivia. We are talking about the pros and cons of situationships. And Kyle, you're in a bit of a pickle today because you are in a relationship, so you have to talk about the opposite. So tell me the pros and the pros of situationships.
Well, as a person in a relationship, first and foremost, before I get myself in trouble, I love my girlfriend to death. But as a college student, it's really a transition period in people's lives. For some people, not myself, obviously. Again, I'm not getting myself in trouble here.
Are you sure?
I'm going to try not to. But, it could be, something, Chris, it's going to be, something that might be a little more flexible for them. Especially we're from all kinds of different places, and, there's no telling where we go after graduation. So, you could have somebody that you're dating right now, but you graduate or they graduate early. I've been in that situation where a former girlfriend, graduated early and then she moves away. So, I mean, it gives you a little more freedom, but I can't say I condone cheating, though. That's the only thing with the situationship is it's essentially just cheating.
I can definitely understand that. He definitely saved himself in the first recording. Olivia, you have what is the cons really of the situationships in your eyes?
I think the cons, since being in college, your main priority is to focus on school. And when you're in a situationship, the boundaries get really blurry and you don't know. There's more feelings involved between, it's unrequited almost. A lot of times, one person will have more feelings in it than the other person and cause a lot of stress. More than a relationship, you both know you're committed. The feelings are mutual. Situationships cause a lot of uncertainty when there's no communication, because college students are not great at communicating what they're expecting out of a situationship. So more often than not, and I see it now, is someone has more feelings in it than the other person, and it gets like obsessive and toxic and unhealthy.
I have a question. Either of you can answer. Do you think that situationships affect more of, as we all are college students, upperclassmen, or do you think it affects lowerclassmen or anything? Because we talked about earlier when we had John on, talking about how, the freedom, being on your own and all that fun stuff, and it kind of sounds like, it affects more of underclassmen, because especially when you're coming out of high school, do you think it affects them more, or do you think seniors feel the added pressure?
I'll go ahead and take this one, and I agree with you. I do think it affects underclassmen a little bit more, because, when you first get to college, like John said earlier in the pod, that, this is your first time really experiencing the world on your own. So, those underclassmen, they essentially, lack of a better term, they have time to mess around. They have time to do stuff like that. But as for me, I'm a senior. I'm turning 22 this year. My mama wants grandkids. So it's getting to the point where, I'm just getting to that age right now. Like I said, I graduate this December. I'm turning 22 this year, where it's time to settle down. It's time to, find somebody that you want to spend the rest of your life with, so you really can't do the whole situationship thing.
Definitely understand that. Appreciate you both for coming on. Next, we have the pros and cons of relationships, and Kyle should have chose that one because I might have saved it. Well, we'll be right back after this. This is the Lovers Podcast. Welcome back to the Lovers Podcast. We have Carl now, and we are getting ready to start out the pros and cons of relationships. So, Carl, I would like for you to kick things off. You have an easier task than Kyle did over here.
I am in a happy relationship. I'm not trying to, end anything crazy like Kyle, but I would say some of the cons, there aren't really too many cons. I guess it's just like the stress that may come out of like the outside relationship, whether it's like family or just meeting her family, or like expectations, or maybe like problems you had prior to even meeting this person. I can see why people in situationships would want to stay, just doing a couple of things when I actually have that attachment, because that like outside source doesn't really affect when you still have a person there. But I guess one of the cons would just be probably like just family expectations, and trying to meet a whole new group of people, or like trying to like get in tune with a whole different culture of people that you haven't like been in tune with. So
yeah, I would agree with that statement, but I would say it also varies, because I know for me and my girlfriend, her family pretty much welcomes me, and even though it's a different culture, they do accept me and support me. So it can really vary. And just overall in college, I think about 30 to 40% of students are in relationships, and maybe only 10% last. But I will say it does get harder after college to actually find and settle down and commit to someone.
I mean, there's a question for either both of you. Seeing the fact that you guys are both in relationships, I'm assuming obviously you guys have been in it at least, a year at least? I mean, that's, in a year, especially for us as college students, that's 2 semesters, and now you're going from either freshman to sophomore, going through that stage, and that's like very time consuming. Do you say that for people that are in situationships, saying that like they don't have that time? I mean, a year is a long time, but like a year to actually like commit to one person, like what do you say to that person to encourage them to be in a relationship compared to a situationship?
I feel like if you have time to like constantly fool around with that person, you probably have time to be in a relationship with said person, to be honest. I feel like you're just more scared of the commitment and being tied down, I guess, or having to focus on one person rather than just having no time. Because if you have enough time to fool around with them, you have enough time to be their boyfriend or girlfriend. That's my take.
I feel like it all comes down to finding common ground or having common goals with that person. If you do, it's going to be a lot easier than trying to match your schedules if y'all are going in opposite directions in life in general.
Okay. Well, I thank you for all of our guests for joining us today. I appreciate you guys joining along. Do you prefer situations or relationships? Leave that down in the comment section below. We are getting ready to sign off. And remember, man, stay safe out here in these streets.